It's time for part two of the Kentucky Derby preview. Today is Monday before the Derby, and there were some major developments today with the exit of Quality Road, who was my Derby pick and was going to be soloed on a number of my superfecta and trifecta keys and used in conjunction with other horses. He was the fastest horse in the race as my figures and the way that my Derby formula kind of worked out. So that's going to leave me with I Want Revenge currently on top of the keys. Now remember, the goal here is trifecta, superfecta. The payoffs are like telephone numbers. I mean, you have the chance of making a huge score. But when we look at this race, we're going to eliminate horses that we don't think can win the race. And, there's going to be, 90% of these horses we'll never hear from again. So with that in mind, you want to eliminate the contenders now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a couple of the contenders that I have some questions with. I'm going to throw that out there. People have been shooting me emails and responding to the Derby preview, and I know some of the other viewers would like to hear your comments. So if you make a general comment on the comment box on the web page, other people will hear your point of view and be able to respond to that as well. And maybe we can get a little blog going with our opinions. And the people that do watch the show, I know there's a lot of regular horse players and some of my friends and whatnot. So there's going to be some pretty good comments in there. So I'd recommend doing that. But today I want to take a look at a couple of horses, and one of them is Pioneer of the Nile. Here's a horse coming into the race with everything going for him, including the jockey and the trainer and the horse. He's a multiple graded winner, has done everything asked of him, seems to run his best races a little bit off the pace, which is going to be suited well for him in this race because he's going to have a pace to run after. The problem I have with Pioneer of the Nile is he ran his last race rank. And in the Kentucky Derby, there's no room for error. And he seems like a horse that is nervous, agitated, a horse that's always looking around, and that nervous energy, you want to reserve that for the race. I think that's going to negatively impact his chances to win the race. Now, that definitely does not mean that he can't win it, but only one horse can win the race. So we got to start getting rid of some of the top contenders. Pioneer of the Niles is going to be bet heavily, rightfully so, but I think he's going to run into a scenario where his speed figures aren't up to par with the top class horses in this crop. He has never run on dirt. While he has shown a liking to the surface in his workout, he's never had the dirt kicked in his face from other horses or had to, maybe he'll excel on it, and maybe that'll push his speed figures to where they're supposed to be. But watching the last race, on the backstretch of the Santa Anita Derby, it was very telling to me that Pioneer of the Nile was pulling Gomez so hard, he was almost like he just didn't look comfortable. And Gomez said, you know what, I'm going to let this horse get to the front. He got to the front, and then at that point, he did relax. In the Kentucky Derby, he's going to be pressured if he tries to make a move like that with all the other speed horses in the race, including Regal Ransom, and now Join the Dance, who's going to be, he's a speedball, probably the quickest horse in the race. So that's going to be a difficult scenario for him, one that he hasn't seen. He ran his best race from off the pace in the Bob and Beverly Lewis, where he had a target down the track and he was able to gobble up things, and he's got a beautiful long stride. And if that scenario works out for him, where he's got two horses in front of him and he's in the middle of the track, he's got a good chance to gobble them up. But I have a feeling that he's going to be outrun the first mile, and that's going to compromise his chances. And if you remember a couple of things to read between the lines on the horse. One, Gomez was on the fence on riding him in Dunkirk. Gomez had rode two Breeders' Cup winners for Baffert this past fall. The Breeders' Cup's back at Santa Anita. Baffert's going to have a whole nother string of horses. There's a certain amount of professional respect here. I think Gomez said to himself, I'm going to do the right thing. But it wasn't a decision that he made while he jumped off the Santa Anita Derby winner in the paddock saying, I'm going to be riding this horse. Another interesting comment that I thought kind of stood out in my eyes was when Baffert said they were interviewing after his first gallop over the Churchill Downs surface, and Baffert said, everything's going for him, he's happy, he's healthy, he's in great shape, and then he said, everything's going right for him, we'll see if he's fast enough. And to me, that's just something where Baffert is an extremely confident trainer, but at the same time, that comment makes you feel maybe those speed figures are accurate. Now, there was also a story out there that Baffert tried to purchase Papa Clem after his maiden victory. You know, trying to, so he's looking for other horses out there. He was interested in Papa Clem. Papa Clem ran a big race against Pioneer of the Nile. So for my top spot and for my top ticket, I'm protected with Papa Clem or with Pioneer of the Nile because I bet him in the future bets and I've got him on some exactas and things like that. But for my top spot, I'm going to have to eliminate that horse. I'm going to have to take him off there. I'd like to hear some comments from viewers on what your opinion of that is, and maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm off, but we're going to have to throw out some horses, and he's the first prominent horse that I'm going to throw off my list. Now, the second comment I got for today regarding Papa Clem, it turns out that if you watch his workout, the exercise rider misjudged the finish line, and he pulls the horse up at the 16th pole. Now, this is a long stretch. This is the exercise rider's first time out here in Churchill Downs, and that 7 furlong 129, you can cross that number off. That's not what the horse ran. That horse was pulled. The jockey thought he was finishing at the 16th pole. You can see him patting the horse on the neck, and he just kind of stood up on him. So Papa Clem's a little bit back in the mix to hit the board here. From my point of view, some of the horses that have been looking like they've been standing out on the track include Desert Party and Regal Ransom both. They've both been working very well. Their connections have been to the Derby. This is their fourth time, and they've learned from their lessons. They've got all the money in the world to make sure these horses are happy. Now, they're dangerous to me. I also am feeling pretty good about Westside Bernie and Win Willie to hit the board. I think Win Willie's definitely going to be running late. I like to look at the Derby from this perspective. Let's say it's a 21 horse field and you break the groups of horses into 3 groups of 7. Your first group of 7 horses that are going to run in that front forwardly placed group make up the winner just about every time. So you're looking at 2 out of the first 7 horses are going to hit the board. The rest of them aren't going to be on the ticket. Okay? Then in your second group of horses is usually where you have the horse that runs 3rd or 4th. And then in the last group of horses, you always have one good solid closer. Last year it was Dennis of Cork. Imperialism comes to mind. Sir Cherokee comes to mind. Steppenwolfer, I should say, comes to mind. Now, Giacomo was a closer that was involved in a tremendously fast pace. So for him, you kind of got to throw that race out a little bit. So when I look at these horses, I think Win Willie is going to be the closer that gets the job done. Chocolate Candy has been making a good impression on the track, and he's another one who's showing the ability to run late. So we'll see how he does. But for my money, Win Willie ran such a big race in the Arkansas Derby and on a conventional dirt track, and in the Arkansas Derby, he ran a good race. Now, he did run 4th, and Summer Bird ran a big race. But I'll tell you something. Win Willie he was not compromised by his performance in the Arkansas Derby. I think he ran a very reasonable race. He got the money he needed to move forward, and he wasn't taxed in that race. I don't think it's going to affect his chances. So that's how we see that, and the next show we're going to be getting a little more specific on the way to start betting the race. Handicapping the Kentucky Derby and racing in general is one thing, but actually making the correct bets. You don't want to beat yourself in this race, so you have to go deep in some areas. We're going to talk on the next race about some different gambling strategies that I incorporate into my betting.